Good morning. Thank you for joining me today at VirtualPBX admin training. If you're a vConsole customer, we're no longer offering the live trainings. However, you can find the trainings or the recorded training on our vConsole support page, which is right here. So you mouse up towards the top here, support, oops, and then click on vConsole support. That gets you to this page here. And then this training here, that's the full admin training for vConsole customers. And then we have the various guides for vConsole further down here. Likewise for Dash, even though we're going over the training here, yeah, we have videos here. This one here is the full training. And then down below, again, we have our various guides for specific features. In either case, to log in, you would go under support, PBX login, scroll down, and this is your Dash login. And then down below that, we have the VirtualPBX web phone. The web phone is a device on Dash. It's actually a VoIP device, so voice over internet. Makes use of a desktop browser, specifically Chrome and Firefox at this time. Basically, you add a web phone device to your user, and then at that point, you can log in here, right down here. Use your same login credentials as your Dash account, and you can use your browser to make and receive calls. A couple of things to note: it only works on desktop browsers. It will not work on the mobile versions of Chrome or Firefox, for example. Our engineers are working on getting other browsers to work with the web phone. I know they're working on Safari, and I believe that also Microsoft Edge. However, I haven't been given an ETA on when that's going to be happening. And then down below that is the vConsole login. All right, so you click on login. We'll open up a new tab. All right, so your username is going to be an email address. Your account name is going to be your company name. So since I'm using a test account, that's why I have that one. And then you sign in. There's also the forgot info link there in case you ever forget your passwords. And then we'll be taken to our dashboard. First time you log in on a new account, the startup wizard will come up, so you'll pop up talking about different parts of the site, basically telling you where certain things are. For example, if you click on your name up here, it'll bring the account information. Now, since this is a test account, it doesn't have everything. So for those, since you're going to have a live account, you'll also have a billing section here, which allows you to update your credit card information and allows you to see your usage. Up here is also a link to get into the web phone. So on this page here, we have users. These are your full functioning users. That's how I term it. These are people who make and receive calls. They can use a variety of devices. Cell phones, landlines, they can use VoIP phones, what have you. The one thing about cell phone and landlines, those are typically are going to be for receiving calls. Although with a cell phone, like modern cell phones, you can get a soft phone app and they can use the app on their phone to also make outbound calls. Users have a lot of features, and not only do they have voicemail, that's automatic, but they can have caller ID if they have their own phone number. They can have call forwarding, so if they're using a VoIP phone, they can then choose to forward that to a cell phone if they know they're going to be away from their desk. They can have their own fax box. They can have conferencing. among others. Down below that, we have agents. Agents are specific to ACD queues. They are people who receive calls primarily. They can only use VoIP devices, so a physical VoIP phone, a soft phone, or the web phone. Typically not making outbound calls, and they have basically no features other than voicemail. So users typically on a plan are going to be more expensive, and they'll up your monthly bill by anywhere from like $12 to $25 a month, depending on your plan and your payment options. Agents also will increase your bill, but I think it's $4.99 or $9.99 per agent, but that's because ACD queues have their own fee associated with them. And again, agents can be in multiple queues. Down below that, you have total devices. These are all the devices on the account, and then broken down by type, so soft phone, cell phone, etc. And then unregistered means the system does not know if they're actually connected to us actively at this time. And usually that's for the SIP phones or soft phones. Basically, the system says, hey, they're not connected. Back over here to the right, you have your main numbers. So these are numbers your customers call to get to your system and to navigate through it. All these numbers behave the same way. They have the same main greeting, right? So it doesn't matter if I call that 702, the 844, or the 669. No matter which of those three numbers I dial in, I'm going to hear the same main greeting, and I'm going to get to the same menu options. Right. Down below that is the fax box number. This is for your inbound faxes. And we have total numbers. Assigned numbers, these are numbers that are in use. They're going somewhere on your system. Spare numbers are numbers on your account that you're not using, so they don't actually ring to anything. You're still going to be billed for them, because again, most accounts only come with 2 phone numbers as part of their plan. And the reason to have spare numbers is you say for, I guess a prime example is if like you bought like a block of 10 numbers that are in sequence, and you might be only using the first 2 or 3, but you're saving those other ones for future growth. Or you have numbers that you only use for specific like advertising campaigns. So when campaigns go live, you make the number live, and when they're not, you just disconnect them so you're not getting extraneous calls that are, you're not expecting on those numbers. Down below that, we have the breakdown between, in this case, US DID, so local numbers, and US toll-free numbers. Yeah, the company directory, so these are for users either you as an admin have chosen to be in the company directory, and the users themselves, I believe, can control that as well. The account ID, this is technically your account number. You can use that in reference whenever you communicate with us. However, like if you ever call into support or billing, we're not going to ask you for that number. We're typically going to ask you for your company name. The account realm, this is what you use for outbound faxing, basically email to fax, as well as for any programming of a third-party VoIP device or soft phone application. All right, up here, caller ID. The system will want you to have caller ID set. It has a little red banner message saying, hey, your caller ID is not set. Company caller ID name. This is referred to as CNAME or CNOM. It's restricted to 15 characters, including spaces and special characters. This is an industry standard in terms of telecom. And basically, this is additional text that goes out with your caller ID when you make outbound calls with your VoIP devices. A couple of things to keep in mind about this. CNAME is not supported by every carrier in North America. So if a call happens to route through a carrier that doesn't support it, it's not going to get through to the end destination. Obviously, even for the carriers who do support it, if they're having some sort of issue, even if the call goes through, the CNAME information may not go through, right? Because they're more, again, it's a priority to get the call through versus anything else. And then the last depends on the device receiving the call, right? Some phones just don't have the screen real estate to show the caller ID name. In cases where people have programmed your phone number into their device, whatever they've labeled your phone number, that's what's going to show up as a caller ID name, because the device information is going to take precedence over anything we send out. And then further down, we have the company emergency address, E911, again, for VoIP phones. If someone at a VoIP phone picks up the phone, calls 911, this is the default address information that is sent to emergency services. And you can change this on a device basis. So if you have people at different locations, they can have their own E911. Hold music, this is the hold music on the system. So hold music is, or for music on hold, this is when a caller is actually spoken to a staff member, and then that staff member puts them on hold on their phone. That's what hold music is on the system. You can upload your own file, and it needs to be either a .mp3 or .wav, .wav. Currently, the system is restricted to 1 megabyte. Our engineers are working to get that back up to 5. But even a 1 megabyte file, that's something like a 5-minute message, or take 5-minute file. Over here, we have hours of operation, but that gets us into some subfields of the main number. So let's go over to main number. So your main company numbers, you can see them here. You can unassign them if you're not going to use them anymore, or you want to use them for something else. The little cog icon here allows you to set up the caller ID, E911, etc. for each individual number. Prepend, actually here, we'll bring it up on. Okay. This is for a feature that works for VoIP phones. This allows you to put additional text in front of the caller ID information for inbound calls that are going to a VoIP phone. Right, so that you or your staff members know, oh, it's, in this case, I said it's the TF inbound, so toll-free inbound. So that way my staff members would know, oh, they're calling on the toll-free number. You can always add from your spare numbers to be a main number. You can always buy numbers. Now, if you signed up without any phone numbers on your account, at some point you're going to add numbers to the account just to be able to set everything up. If you have 0 phone numbers on the account, even though this says buy numbers, you're not going to be charged for them because your account already includes at least 1 to 2 phone numbers. All right, so then for local, you enter in an area code. So we will try the 703. So this shows us the 703 numbers available. You would click add, and that moves them over, and you can select multiple, and then you would click on buy numbers. Once you click on buy numbers, the system double checks and verifies that yes, that number is really available, and then activates it onto your system. For toll-free numbers, a little bit simpler, but basically you choose the toll-free prefix you want, and it'll show you everything that's available. If you scroll down, as you see, you'll keep adding to the list. Yeah, so 800 numbers, being the original toll-free, harder to acquire, you're going to need to email porting at virtualpbx.com saying, hey, I want a true 800 number. If you have any parameters, like you want it to be a vanity number so it spells something, you want to include that in the email. There is a charge to acquire an 800 number. I believe it starts at $25, but I could be wrong on that. But porting will let you know any costs associated with acquiring an 800 number. All right, because we have a main number here, we have the office hours strategy available. Actually, no, that's always available. Sorry. So by default, on a new account, you're on 24-hour open office. Doesn't work for everybody. So then you can select custom office hours. Once you do that, this grid becomes available. You put a check mark again next to any day of the week that you're open. And then in the box to the right, you put your open hours in 24-hour or military time. If you're closed, you just leave it unchecked. And then you have this nice little option down here. If your whole office or store is closed for lunch, you can put a check mark here saying, yes, you're closed for lunch, and then include what your lunch hours are. And again, if you make any changes, click on Save Changes. Office holidays, you can set up your office holidays in advance. You have three basic types. You have single day, so President's Day, which I guess I should make that accurate to reflect the right day. All right, so just for that day, the system knows once it hits the 18th, we go into holiday mode. You can do a date range, which is what we have here for Christmas time here, December 22nd through December 26th. So again, for all those days, the system will automatically go into holiday mode. And then the advanced option is this one here. I just said the second Monday of March will be closed. Those are your options to create those. Now, the main caveat here is that the year is not in place for each of the holidays. So for something like President's Day, after the 18th, I either need to remove this completely or wait a couple days after the 18th and then add President's Day for 2020. For things that obviously stay the same, like 4th of July in the US, you can just leave it and don't worry about it. Another caveat because of the year is for going from Christmas to, or for New Year's specifically. You don't want to do a date range covering New Year's Eve and New Year's Day because the system just puts you in holiday mode all year because you don't have a year designation. So in that instance, we recommend do a single day for New Year's Eve, a single day for New Year's Day. Anything else, you can do a date range. All right, incoming call handling. So this is how your phone numbers handle calls that are coming in. Please notice along the top here, you have your open hours, your lunch hours, because I specified that we're closed for lunch. After hours means outside your working hours, and then your holidays. And these all have the same three basic options. So you can set them all to be the exact same. You can set them up to be each individually different. So this first option here, call comes in, goes to the virtual receptionist. And you click on the virtual receptionist, it's going to bring you up with a new window here. So this is basically where you would set up a main greeting to say thank you for calling, press 1 for sales, 2 for support, et cetera, or 801 to speak to Bob, 802 to speak to Mary, that sort of thing. Over here on the left is the main menu. Basically, what does pressing 1 through, I think it's 0 through star. Yeah, 0 through star. What do each one of these buttons represent? Now, you don't have to have them all. It'll just come up if an inbound caller selects one that you haven't defined, it just comes up as an invalid try. All right, but when you get rid of this, you select an open option. So it looks like 5 is still open. And then here you have where it can go. You have basically everything on the system. So the smart directory is anyone who chose to be in the user directory. Users, these are your full functioning users. Call queues, so if I have ACD queues on the system, I can have an option go to one of the queues. Devices, that means you can go to a specific device. This is not something we typically recommend, but you can do so. You can also go to media file, so I can go to have a specific message play. Again, not typically recommended because once the message stops playing, the call is ended. And then further down, you have groups. So these are ring groups. Basically, like a department of people. It's something you can use instead of an ACD queue. An ACD queue has more advanced routing options than a ring group, and for a lot of people, it's probably unnecessary, whereas a ring group is going to work fine for most instances. And then lastly, going directly to a voicemail box. Over here on the right is greetings. You have text to speech. You type in what you want the system to say, and it's going to come up with a computerized voice. That'll be ready immediately. And if it doesn't sound right, you can just simply edit this file and then click update and then save. And then you'll have the new greeting in place. Upload your own file, again, .mp3, .wave. And right now restricted to 1 megabyte. And you choose the file on your system. If you already have existing recordings on your system, then you can choose from them here. And again, you would click update and then save. Recorded over the phone. So this is with a VoIP phone already on the system. And basically, you would dial your main number and then enter in this PIN number, and then the system will guide you through recording over the phone. But again, it has to be a registered VoIP phone on the system. And then lastly, we have professional recording systems. We've partnered with another company called Snap Recordings. And this is their page for our customers. They have samples here. The main advantage here is that they have something like 100 voice actors to choose from. You have different versions of English. You have Spanish, you have French, you can go bilingual. They also have their own pricing structure and model bundles. So you can do like background music with a script as well as just a main greeting message. And again, if you make any changes, make sure you click save. All right, this next option here is call comes in, and you're giving your staff members a chance to answer the call. And then if no one's available, it goes to the virtual receptionist. So typically you're going to select a user, a call queue, possibly device, but again, not recommended, or a ring group are the typical options. And then this option here is call comes in, again, to a user ring group queue. If no one picks up, goes to a voicemail box. Right, so this is during your open hours. Your lunch hours, you can, again, have it to say, hey, try Bob, because Bob's on duty for phone calls, but if he can't take the call, goes to a virtual receptionist. After hours, you can set your virtual receptionist here. Oh, I guess I should also point out, each virtual receptionist is different, or you can set them up differently. So for after hours, you can say, hey, these options will, go to, say, voicemail boxes. Instead of going to a ring group. And again, you can add different greetings for each, which kind of makes sense for after hours. You say, hey, you caught us after hours, or we're closed. And then holidays again. You can have various options. But again, any changes you make here, you want to make sure you click Save Changes. Your main fax box number, again, for your inbound faxes. You can unassign it if you decide you don't want to accept faxes anymore. Edit the fax box. This is where you choose which email address the faxes are going to. Next up is the Numbers tab. This basically shows the numbers on your account. These two top ones in red were porting examples, which is why they're red, because they haven't actually completed. And then beyond that, it's showing you where the numbers are going. And then you can have set up the caller ID, et cetera, for each of the numbers. And then spare number shows your numbers that you're not using. And once they're in spare numbers, you can select that and delete it to remove a number from your account. Check out, we're never going to use that number again. All right, users. So this is where you add users or manage your users. Adding a user, pretty easy. Click on add user. You put their first and last name. Each user, actually, and each agent has to have a unique email address. So you can't use, say, david.talley@virtualpbx.com. You can only use that email address once. I can't use it for Bob. I can't use it for Mary. They each have to have their own email address. You create the password. Main extension number, this would be the next in the series that's available. So when I first started this account, I started the first extension with extension 1000. So and do that. So the next extension was 1002, et cetera, or 1001, 1002, et cetera. So 1011 is the next available one. You can choose to have the user in the user directory. That's up to you. They can change your mind later. Sending emails to an alternate email address basically bypasses this email address. And you can send a notification to someone else. And then this is the one you should always check. Send credentials to the user so that way that person knows what their password is to log in. Now bear in mind, creating a user is going to change your bill. All right. If you click on a user's name, you can always change their name. You can change their credentials, right? So their email and their password. This is their voicemail box. They can change their PIN number here or update it here. Again, you can choose to have email sent to an alternate address. And again, here's the option to be in the company directory. Over here, this is where you choose to make someone an admin or not. So if they have the little blue suit icon, they're an admin. If they don't, then they're a user. Admins have basically access to everything I'm showing you here today. Excuse me. Users do not. They only have access to their user portal. This is time zone. So you can use account default or select a specific time zone. This is the language, English, French, or Russian. Ringing timeout, typically this defaults to 20 seconds. If you have the follow me feature enabled, then you would be using that to adjust your ringing duration. And then the main extension number, basically what is the primary extension that is associated with this user. And that's especially important for dealing with voicemails and what shows up on your VoIP phone. In terms of if you have voicemail in this voicemail box, then the voicemail lamp on your phone will light up. Extensions, users can have multiple extensions if they want. Most people only need one. The example I use is within our company, we've had some turnover in our sales department. So our VP of sales, he has any former salesperson's extensions on his user. So that way, if a voicemail comes in, or a call comes in, or a voicemail comes in to those former salespeople, he gets the messages so he can act on them, or divvy them out to new salespeople to contact those customers or potential customers. Phone numbers, you can have a phone number go directly to a user, and they can have multiple numbers if you want. So these numbers would bypass the main greeting or anything like that. They just go straight to this person. Devices, this is all the devices on the user. They can have many devices as they want. Just be aware that in terms of VoIP devices, after I think you get one included, typically speaking, additional devices, I believe, are $4.99 a month. And generally speaking, you want to see them be green. That lets you know the system says, hey, these are connected, or at least working last we knew. And then over here, we have the feature box and the user features. So caller ID number, this only works on a user that has a phone number. And you can select it. If you turn it off, that means they're using the main company number as a default. Call forwarding. So for a VoIP phone user, all right, if you lose connection like lose internet connection, you still want to get your calls somehow. This is where call forwarding would come in handy. Or if you know you're going to be away from your desk, but you still want to take calls, right? Like, oh, I'm going to be at a customer site, but I can still take calls that are coming to me, or I'm expecting, other important calls. You can set up call forwarding. That's just by turning it on. Failover mode is when you lose internet connection or your phone loses power. You can say, well, if that happens, automatically forward. And then what you want to do is you're forwarding it to a desk phone, a mobile phone, or a desk phone. These are standard phones, right? Landline or mobile. Then you put +1 area code and phone number, and click Save Changes. The main thing is you don't want the forwarding device, right? So like this mobile phone, you don't want this mobile phone to be a device on that user, because the system's already going to be trying to call that device if it's already on the user. Whereas forwarding is like, hey, this is a special circumstance, let me forward in this case. Hot desking is a VoIP phone feature. Basically, this is if you're in a shared office environment where people may be switching desks from day to day or even within the same shift. What it does is allows users to log into the phone that they happen to be sitting at, and so that way their calls are routed to them at that specific phone. When they're no longer using that phone, they log out of that phone. So, Bob comes in on Monday, he's sitting at desk A, he logs in, he gets his calls. End of his shift, he logs out. Tuesday, he comes in, he's over at desk M. Again, he sits in front of the phone, logs into the phone, his calls are routed to him again at his new desk. That's how hot desking works. That's why you need an ID number. I usually say just make it your extension number. You can have it use a PIN or not, up to you. Voicemails, every user has a voicemail box. So when you create a user, the voicemail box is created for that user at the same time. That voicemail box is essentially a special voicemail box intrinsically tied to that user. You do not want to delete that voicemail box unless you're absolutely sure that person is never going to have voicemail, or you don't want that person to ever have voicemail. Because unfortunately, if you delete a user's voicemail box, then you try to create one again later, you can't tie it the same way to that user, meaning voicemails comes in, it's not going to show up on the VoIP phone, or they're not going to be able to access that voicemail box as easily from their VoIP phone. Fax box, this is if you want a particular user to have their own fax box. I don't know that many people still make use of faxing, so usually the main fax box is enough for most, but if you need to have a specific one, you would enable. I usually recommend, if possible, use a dedicated phone number for faxing, because while you can add a new extension, what that requires is that the inbound person who's making the fax into your system has to call your main number, then has to know the extension that they're faxing to, enter that extension, and then hit start on their fax machine. Most people that I've encountered when they fax, they go to the fax machine, they enter the number, they put the document in, hit send, and then they walk away, because they don't want to sit there and wait for it to finish. Follow me. This is if you have multiple devices, you can set them up on how you want them to ring to you. All right, so right here is your total ring duration, measured in seconds, so 120 seconds, 2 minutes. And on this user, now typically when you have devices set, or when you first come in, you'll see a couple of devices Interesting. There, as for do not ring. In fact, any new device you add would show up here as under do not ring. So first and foremost, you'd want to uncheck that, and then you get a slider and you can adjust it. Now, you can adjust the sliders so that everyone's ringing the whole length. Oops. Right, so this means call comes into my user here. all 4 devices are ringing at the same time until I pick up the call. Right? If I end up not picking up the call, yes, those 4 devices are going to be ringing for 2 minutes, and then I'll go to my voicemail box. If I pick up from any one of the devices, then the other ones stop ringing. All right. Now I can move the order around if I want, which is helpful if I want to do something like this instead, distribute. So basically I'm saying, hey, ring this phone first, then the second, then the third, then the fourth. Basically, I'm at one location, I'm happy at another location, whatever, just follow me, find me where I am at. And then save changes. Music on hold. Every user can have their own hold music. So when they put someone on hold, that's the music playing, or the message that plays. And you would simply enable and either choose the file or upload, and then you hit this icon here. Customize call recording. So your account comes with call recording. Just bear in mind that there is I think it's a 2 GB allocation typically for most accounts. It might be 1 on Dash Basic. I have to double check that. And then once you go over that, there'd be a per gigabyte fee. But the main thing for here is inbound internal means a call coming to my user that I'm working with here from within the system. So from another user to me. Right, so from Bob to me. So if I turn it off, that means I'm not recording that. If I turn it on, then I am. All right. Inbound external means someone from outside my system, so customer, calling me. All right. So then outbound internal means I'm calling another user. So I'm calling Bob. Am I recording or not? In this case, I'm not. And then outbound external means I'm calling a customer back. And again, you can toggle these off or on as you wish. Currently, the only format accepted is MP3. You don't want to change that just because MP3 has a better compression rate than WAV, which is the other typically accepted format. All right, next up, we go to groups. Groups is shorthand for ring groups, sometimes referred to as a hunt group. Adding a group is, you just click at the top there, add a group. You give it a name and an extension, and then you add users. The name is anything you want it to be. The extension number is just as long as it doesn't match anyone else's extension number or voicemail box number. And that's basically so your staff members can transfer people to it if they need to. And then you click and drag to add users to the group. And then you click on create group. So once you've created a group, you can click on the name. And you have this option here, dialing repeats, little arrows over here to the right. Basically, how many times are you letting a caller ring through the group? All right, so if you set it to 1, that means they get 1 try to hit everyone in the group. And if not, the call is going to end or go through your next action, which is one of the features of ring groups. Right? In this case, I have set it up to 3. So basically, the inbound caller gets 3 attempts to try to reach everybody. I don't know what the upper limit is. I haven't explored that. Goes up quite a bit, though. Members, this allows you to view your members in the group. Now it looks like I have a deleted user, so we'll remove him or her. And then, again, like under Follow Me, you can adjust the ring durations for each person. Now, one thing to keep in mind, calls coming into a ring group ring that person's devices, all of their devices, at the same time. Doesn't matter what their Follow Me setting. Follow Me settings are for calls that come directly into that user. Whether they entered their extension number directly, they entered a menu option from the virtual receptionist, or they called directly into a DID. For ring groups, mostly a lot of customers choose to distribute. So it rings people in sequence. But sometimes you're like, nope, I want whoever gets the call first. Everyone has a chance to answer. Whoever first gets it, gets it. Your total ring duration that's up here, again, default is 120 seconds for 2 minutes. One thing to keep in mind is for calls that come into your ring group, if a group member is already on a call and a call comes into the ring group that they're in, they will get a tone in their ear on their side. The customer wouldn't hear it, letting them know, hey, a call is coming in. That means at that point they're probably looking around at their coworkers, go answer the damn call. But so that's just one caveat to keep in mind. Extensions, again, an extension for the ring group. It can have multiple extensions. Phone number, this would be a number that goes directly into the group. So like for your sales team or your support team, like, hey, don't go through the menu, just dial this number, get to one of our staff members. Group features. So the most important one, I think, is next action. Basically, if no one picks up, what do you want the system to do? So first option, send them to the main menu, right? So your virtual receptionist, so they can enter a menu option, right? Or have it go to a voicemail box. You can also have it go to a device or a user. Don't think, yeah. But most people choose just to have it go to a voicemail box. So basically, your staff wasn't able to answer a call, goes into a voicemail box. They can leave a message, and then your staff can get to it. Call recording for a group. No caveat here, but basically it's on or it's off. That means every user in the ring groups or in that ring group, they'll have that call recorded. You cannot choose, oh, I want Bob and Mary to have their calls recorded, but not Dan and Mark. Ringback is essentially the hold back or the hold music for the ring group. So as the customer is waiting for someone to pick up, you can have them listen to something, right? Whether it's a music file, a script where you're having some kind of message played, or a combination. And you can choose to upload, choose the file, and then this icon here. Again, .wav, .wav, or .mp3, right now limited to 1 megabyte. Allow call forward. So this allows your users to make use of call forwarding. So if they're typically a VoIP phone user, like, hey, I'm going to be out and about, but I should still be taking these calls that are coming into this ring group, i.e., then you allow call forwarding, so then the user can set up call forwarding for themselves to have it forward to their cell phone, for example, or their landline, because like they weren't able to get in the office because of excessive snow. Caller ID prepend. This is for your VoIP phone users. Basically, you can add additional text or new numbers to let your staff members know what it's about. Especially useful if they're in multiple ring groups or have multiple responsibilities. Devices. Basically shows your devices on the account. Actually, let's go back to users real quick. I don't think I covered that. Yeah. So under users, you can add devices directly to a user. So from spare device would be a device that's not already allocated, or a new device. And this is basically the same options as up here. So SIP phone, this is an actual physical VoIP phone. These are the manufacturers that we have that make use of auto provisioning. If you click on the particular manufacturer, you'll see the specific models. You select the model, you make a name for the device, and then you enter the MAC address. The MAC address is a unique alphanumeric code on the back of a phone. It's usually labeled as MAC or MAC address. Some manufacturers use the term serial number. And then you create device. Now, as far as this dashboard is concerned, that's all you need to do. However, for your particular phone, there's still going to be some additional steps you're going to need to follow. Those are on our website under the Dash support page. It's on the right-hand side under VoIP phones. And basically, it's a matter of going into the phone's web user interface and making a couple setting changes. The phone will reboot, communicate to us, hopefully over the internet, and then get this provisioning information. Cell phone, put a name, put +1, area code, and number. Now, by default, when the system sends a call to a cell phone or a landline, when you pick up on that cell phone, for example, you're first going to hear like, this is a forwarded call. Please press 1. You've got basically a couple seconds to press 1 to accept the call. Now, if you don't want to deal with that, you go to Options. You put a check mark here under Allow Use of Cell Phone's Voicemail. So what that does is you don't have to press 1 to accept the call. Basically, we hear the pickup tone, the system connects the call. Downside is that if your cell phone's voicemail picks up, we still treat that as a connected call, so your customer can end up in your personal cell phone voicemail. Some people love that, some people don't. And that's also going to depend on the timing of when your cell phone voicemail picks up versus our system's voicemail kicking in. Keep a regional caller ID. If that's checked, that means you're getting your customer's phone number showing up on your cell phone. If you uncheck it, that means it's going to be the whichever VirtualPBX phone number, whether it's your main number or a DID number, would show up on your caller ID. So I usually say you probably want to uncheck that if you're taking calls to your cell phone, so you know, oh, this is a bit or work call, versus your friend Mary giving you a call. And then hide from contact list, it's just so it doesn't show up on the user directory for your coworkers. Soft phone. This is a software application, usually on a computer or nowadays on a smartphone. Now, on the devices page, you want to leave it as is. Basically, use the name. You've got a SIP username. If you click on the password, you get the password. And this is what you would use to program an application from someone other that's not from VirtualPBX. So like if you're using XLite, which is from Counterpath, which is a soft phone application, or if you're using a phone that didn't show up on that list under SIP phones, you're like, okay, well, you can still program it using these credentials. Now, under users, we'll go to Charles here. So if I go new device, I go soft phone. If I want to make use of the VirtualPBX soft phone, you want to click on this box here and then enter a name and click on create device. So when it's under a user, this is why you need to do this under a user if you're going to make use of the VirtualPBX soft phone, because then the system will email Charles directly what his credentials are to log into the soft phone application. And the same applies for the web phone, actually. Here, actually, let's go back. So the web phone, what you need to do is under new device, on the user, you would select web phone, yes. Again, put a device name and click on create device. And again, this ties it directly to Charles. So all Charles has to do is say, hey, I can get on the web phone. And he'll get an email saying, hey, your web phone's been set up. So then he can log in and make use of the web phone, right? If you try to do it under devices, the system doesn't know who to send it to and who to associate it with it, so no one can log into it. Landline is the same as cell phone. Put a device name, put +1 area code, and you have the same options. Fax is for a digital fax machine. I don't know of a single customer who's making use of that. And then ATA would be for an ATA adapter, basically using an old analog phone connects to this ATA box, which then connects to your internet or to your network. Not that commonly used anymore. Voicemail boxes shows the voicemails on the account. The system is always going to have that main voicemail box as a default at 0. It just creates that automatically. And then every user who's created has their own voicemail box, and that's how you know it's a user voicemail box, because it's got a username there. You scroll down, now you see a bunch that don't have a username associated with it. And then these are ones that were manually created, right? So typically manually created, it's going to be for a ring group or possibly an ACD queue. All right, adding a voicemail box, put a name. So create a box number and a PIN. So now it's created. Then under advanced, so when you manually create a voicemail box, what you want to do next is give it a greeting. Whether that's one you already have on the system or one you're going to upload, if at all possible. That's what you would want to do. Recipients, who's getting notifications of the voicemails that are coming to this voicemail box. And they're not only just getting a notification, they're actually getting an MP3 file to play back. So they can look at their email. Hey, there's an attachment, double click on it, they can hear the message. And then options. So if you have a greeting uploaded to it, you can just do already set up. Requires PIN because I gave it a PIN number. This is the other one you probably want to delete after delete after notification. And you probably want to double check this on your users as well. Or rather, your user voicemail boxes. So basically, when an email is sent out with a greeting, just have the system delete the voicemail on the system. The system currently restricts you to 100 voicemails per box. Once you get to that 100, it says your voicemail box is full and no one else can leave a message. So if you're already having the notification sent to you via email, just have the system delete it so that way you don't have to go back in and worry about it later. Agents, these are people in the ACD queue. Exact same process as adding a user. Again, name, email address has to be unique, password, give them an extension number. And then you want to send the credentials to the agent. Click on their name. Can change the name, can change their credentials, can change their extension. You reset their password. You can convert them to a user. If you convert them to a user, that puts them into the user group versus the agent group. All right, extensions, just whichever extension is directly to the user. Phone number, self-explanatory. And then devices, again, you can add it from spare, or you can add a VoIP device. Feature codes. Feature codes are also on our website, so you don't have to just log in. But basically, these are codes you can use from a VoIP phone to make use of features of the system. So the first set here, that's for your agents in an ACD queue, so they can log themselves in and out without having to use a web page. Here's your call forwarding. So again, you can do it from the phone, hot desking, some others. Over here, we have the call logs, which on this system probably isn't going to be anything. But basically, this would show your call activity. The green arrow to the right means that's a call that came in, right? And then the orange arrow going to the left, that's outgoing. Or basically, call came in, and then we try to reach out to this user at this phone number. You can click on these calls, get a little bit more information, and the cog will give you technical information. Okay. Over here, we have the hamburger menu. So we're on the dashboard now. Next up is queues. So if you're going to make use of ACD queues, This is where you would go to add them. Each ACD queue is $30 per queue per month. So that's why, if possible, you probably want to make use of ring groups because you're not charged extra for those. You can add a queue, you give it a name, select a number. Oops. And then these are the settings. So name, here's the number that goes directly into it. Your routing strategies. So round robin, basically it's random over the long haul. This will balance out over your users. Least calls is basically route calls to the person who has the least amount of connected calls. Right? So Bob has spoken to 15 people, Mary's spoken only to 5, Mary's going to get the next call. Least offers is basically who's had the least amount of calls offered to them. Doesn't matter if they connected or not. So basically, Bob's been in for 2 hours, so he's got like 30 calls after him. Mary just signed in. Mary's getting the next call. She's going to continue getting the next call until she matches Bob. Now, obviously, that doesn't mean Bob's not getting any calls ever. It means if Mary's on a call, another call comes in, then Bob will get a call. And then most idle, who's been waiting for a call longest, basically who has been doing nothing for the longest time. You can have your various hold music options here. You can upload a file. Queue timeout, basically what's the total hold time that a person can wait on hold in the queue. Queue call limit, how many simultaneous calls can be in the queue. 0 means there's no limit. Timeout if immediately empty. So basically, if you have no agents logged in, just time out any caller that comes in. Escalation queue, basically this means your staff members in this queue weren't able to answer the call. The queue timeout has hit, send the caller to another queue. So basically it means you have 2 ACD queues at a minimum. Or after the timeout, what do you want the system to do? And usually that's to say, hey, send them to a voicemail box. Agent recovery, basically after an agent is done with a call, how much time are you giving them to catch their breath, get a sip of water, finish their notes? Force away after reject or missed means call comes in, agent didn't pick up for whatever reasons. The system will put them marked away until the agent themselves mark themselves back as ready again. And then agent connect timeout, that's how much time we're trying to connect to a particular agent. And then this is a queue monitor, which if we actually had staff, would be a little bit more impressive to show you. Blacklists, this allows you to block callers from, or block particular caller IDs from connecting to your system. So we can click edit lists. You give it a name, turn it on, or block anonymous basically means if there's no caller ID, block the call. And then down here, you would enter any numbers that you want to block. So +1, area code and phone number. You would click save. You go back to settings, get you back to this page. And then what you want to do is make sure that any list that you've made that you want active is over here under selected, and you click update. Faxes, as an admin, you can get to any fax box on the system and see what their fax activity is like. The same applies to voicemails, which is down here. Monitor, this allows you to see what your staff is doing. So green means they're waiting for a call. Blue means they're on an inbound call. Gold, yellow means they're on an outbound call or external call. And red means they've marked themselves unavailable. Recordings actually takes you to a different website, but basically that's to find your call recordings. You can download them or delete them as necessary. And then this last option here is webhooks, which means is basically making use of APIs to hook into Dash. But that is everything on Dash. Oh, actually, no, it's not. One other thing. Oh, so for an admin, you can also get to your user portal. So if you're in your voicemails, you can see your call history here, your faxes, your contact list, which is your user directory, conference. So if you're making use of conferencing, this is the way you would control a conference in terms of adding people who are within your system. You can lock it so no one else can join it once you have everyone in. You can mute everybody. You can unmute everybody, and you can simply end the call. Also, when you have actual participants, you can mute particular participants or kick them out of the conference. And then settings and devices, this is something all users have. So they can enable their call forwarding themselves and to which device. They can also choose to have it ring their VoIP phone if they want. And click save, as well as see what the devices they have. All right, and that is everything on Dash. So I thank you for joining me today. Again, if you need to contact our support team, got a variety of ways. Email, support@virtualpbx.com. If you're on the website, you can always click on the chat box and get the support that way. And then you can always call us at 888-825-0800, option 2. If you ever have a billing concern, it's option 5 to get to the billing team. And if you need to change your plan in some fashion, you want to probably choose option 4 for our accountant services team. As I mentioned earlier, at the very beginning, you can get to a recording that covers basically everything under support, Dash support, and the new user training here. So you can review this at your leisure, or you can always sign up for another session and you'll hear most likely me talking about this again and basically the same order. So thank you very much, and I'm going to go ahead and end the training.